What's a meme?
What do you mean? A meme is it's where people take things. It could be a sound clip. It could be a picture. It could be a clip from a cartoon. It could be just anything and just put it on the internet for caption or comedy. You're funny.
They say opposites attract.
Well, how about these opposites? Daddies and sons.
You're listening to Daddy and Son,
A podcast where we explore the dynamics of daddy and son relationships, multi-generational views,
and everything else in between.
Yeah, I will get these cold calls frequently from people saying, hi, I'm from so-and-so, would you be interested in da-da-da-da-da? Or, hi, I'm calling from air duct cleaners.
Yeah.
And I'll just be like, pardon? Comment? Tu parles français?
Now be careful because they might start. There's a lot of, what you just, Ruski.
I pretend like I have no idea what they're talking about. So I think it's really helpful sometimes when you do speak a second language and you can just pretend like you don't speak English.
You know what I do? I pick up the phone sometimes and they don't say anything.
Oh yeah, I do that sometimes
and
too.
They click off.
I just like
because
answer
the
software
phone. When the software doesn't hear a voice, it clicks off, and because those are all auto-generated.
But with robocalls, yeah, but they will sometimes try multiple times, and if someone does answer, it does mark that there is, because they've caught on to that people are not answering. The good thing about not responding is that they can't auto-generate your voice, which a lot of these data collectors use to create AI deepfakes of our voices. So that also helps, but they will still continuously try your phone, and that does become a problem. We should do a whole podcast about this, because I should produce it, because this is a whole sector of cybersecurity that a lot of people I think should know about. But anyhow, with that being said, welcome to today's episode of Daddy and Son. My name is Alex.
And I'm Norm.
And we are just on the first week of July. All of the corporations have taken their vacuum and literally sucked out the rainbow of all their walls, all their logos, and all their sensibilities.
Are you talking about gay pride is over?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But
there's also less traffic on the roads. I thought maybe you were referring to that too.
All of it. A to Z. How was your pride?
Well, I had a friend in from out of town. He was wowed by Toronto.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, he thought this is amazing. Where he comes from, they don't have gay pride parades there. Right?
Well, yes.
Well, they do. I guess in Jamaica they had one recently.
Yeah, they do. It's a very small scale.
Yeah.
It's not government funded. But it's something. Well, every celebration and every protest has to start somewhere. Speaking of protests.
Well, this protest, the one here, got stopped by another protest, and I've got to wonder.
I know.
The politics of that. We need to learn, Whitey, what happened there, what happened before and after, and there's going to be some accountability, because that was unacceptable. All those people that didn't get a chance to show up in the parade, stopped by 20 people. I'm sorry, that wasn't fair.
And it's no secret. I've spoken about it on this show that I'm very much pro-Palestinian, but I don't believe that interrupting a protest of minority groups for another protest is of minority groups. I don't think those two things cancel each other out.
They should have moved on. They should have made their point.
Make your point and move on, but behave in a manner that cancels the entire Pride Parade. I can't stand
Well,
behind that.
Let's
And
do
it's
it.
harassment.
Let's do an episode on that because I'm still angry about that. I think we need to learn a little bit more.
Yeah.
But as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, Alex and I get into these discussions both on air and off air. And in fact, I'm wondering how much of you've already heard of our discussion before we started recording today. But anyway, what are we talking about today, hon?
Well, today is an Alex production.
It is,
And
Alex has made a wonderful cocktail. Please tell us about it.
So today I decided to take some fresh Italian thyme off my garden and make mezcal mule. What is that noise?
Sounds like a well, it sounds like a fire alarm of some kind.
You know what? They're celebrating their pride. They're upset too. They didn't get to celebrate with us, so that's what's going on. Or maybe somebody just burnt the toast.
Could be.
Well,
Burnt toast is a more likely scenario. But anyway, you were saying.
So one of the things that I really enjoy is going down Reddit rabbit holes. You know how people always talk about doom scrolling, which is your face indicates you have no idea what I'm talking about.
We're getting into intergenerational differences here, where young folks know technology. Doom scrolling. Tell me about that.
Doom scrolling. It's when you are lying on the couch, or you're lying in bed, and you say, okay, I'm just going to check my Instagram message, and you start going down your reels, and then 2 hours later, you realize that you're still scrolling.
You don't have discipline if you're doing that. I'm sorry. You should not be doing that.
Well, you'll be surprised how many people then don't have discipline because it's a natural occurring phenomenon.
Well, discipline is a good thing, and I've written on that, and perhaps we could do another podcast on that sometime.
Absolutely.
Very We're just coming up with so many ideas today. We've come up with 3 since we started this drink, and we haven't even got to the one we were supposed to talk about today yet.
Speaking of which, this drink, as I digressed, fresh herbs from my garden, mezcal mule, mezcal, Bombay Sapphire Sunset. Shout out to Bombay Sapphire, like the best gin company there is on the planet. A lime that you provided, which is quite delicious and fresh. It was smoked, of course. I used my smoker with hickory wood. Smoke this particular beverage and topped it up with some tonic water. It's quite delicious.
It is a 5-star cocktail, ladies and gentlemen. I assure you, I am well taken care of. And I had a little side piece of homemade carrot cake, which would put your local bakery to shame.
Oh, you just feel my heart.
Well, you won a contest nationally, internationally. I mean, you should be able to bake. That's another story, folks. We have an international champion here from what is it? The Wall
of Bakers.
Wall of Bakers.
Okay. Season 1.
Yes.
So, yeah, I ended up going doom scrolling, and I was like, I find myself, I'm not on Instagram, but I'm on Reddit.
Okay.
And Reddit, even though it doesn't have like a lot of easy access to scroll left, scroll up, scroll down like Instagram does. Reddit, for those of you who may not know, it is the front page of the internet. It's basically a community forum. Think
it's an app, right?
There is an app. Yeah, there is an app.
I'm trying to find it, but I keep calling it Teddit because I can't type right.
Reddit.
Yeah.
Think like
Oh.
I'm trying to find something. Yes, that's it.
Okay,
I'm trying to find like what is it?
Your news and social community. Yes, okay.
Yeah,
well,
I'm trying to figure out what I can compare it to, but to be honest, there is nothing I can compare it to because it's in a class of its own.
Okay.
But think of it like a community forum, but they have like communities for almost everything.
So it's kind of like a TED Talk, only it's virtual online stuff?
I guess.
Something like that?
Something like that.
Because people are talking and sharing information and stories. And,
Yeah,
okay.
on anything.
Yeah, okay.
I've
get the
literally
concept.
had situations where I've been stumped on code at work, and I will like take out all the proprietary information, put the entire code block on Reddit, and say, "Hey guys, I'm trying to do this one Z, and my API is connected. I have the right keys, but it's not like it's when I try to run it." It's not working, and another developer may do a code review and say, hey, this is what you're missing. I fix it, and that happens within like 3 hours of a working day.
They give you the answers.
I've had
they tell
literally situations where people write on like the subreddit or the community, the Ontario community, and they say, hey, I'm from, which something I read today, where someone is, hey, I'm from Quebec, and I got $100 parking ticket. Do I need to pay it? And it's like there's a huge robust discussion around that. So it's really is for like people to discuss everything.
Well, I guess the question is, no, you don't. But here's what might happen in Quebec if you don't.
Well,
don't worry about Ontario. You're not likely coming back. Well, you know what? I'll trade you because I have a parking ticket in Montreal.
One of the
I've
top
never
comments was this, but people from Quebec really think they're a whole other country, don't they?
They do. And you know what? They are. I mean, I ran a national association a long time ago, and I used to say, listen, the folks in Quebec do their own thing. They do not care about what the rest of the association does.
Oh, yeah.
They do their own thing. And we just got to accept that, folks. I'm sorry.
It really boggles the mind. I literally thought this person was trolling, but they're being serious. They really wanted to know what would be the implications if they decided not to pay the Ontario municipality of Toronto for their parking ticket.
I can assure them the Gouvernement du Québec is not going to collect it on Ontario's behalf.
So there we go.
Unless they can keep the money, but that's another issue. Okay.
So, amongst my doom scrolling, two of the communities that I often find myself scrolling down and I look into is dating over 30 and ask bros over 50.
That's kind of what we're about, isn't it?
Kinda, yeah.
I like that.
I
gotta find those channels. Okay.
And so there were a few subreddits, those two subreddits, there were a few conversations that kind of stood out to me.
So can I ask a question?
Yeah.
What makes a subreddit? Does somebody create that?
Somebody creates it.
Okay.
Basically, a subreddit is just a community.
Okay, somebody says, hey, I want to talk about X, Y, and Z. And a bunch of people find that and say, oh, then they all start chatting within that. It's kind of like a self-made channel or forum, I guess. Eh?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's for the daddies out there who are still trying to understand, how to switch their computers on.
You're
I worked for somebody like that once and he was the head of a technology association. He finally took the computer out of his office because he had trouble turning it on.
Oh, yeah. Most people who lead tech companies aren't very technical themselves. And one will argue, because I remember I was talking to a friend of mine who was trying to get me a job with the city of Toronto, and he's one of the IT managers for the city of Toronto, and he doesn't even know what HTML is.
I wouldn't equate a city bureaucrat to the head of a Silicon Valley company, but anyway, we digress.
We digress.
Yeah.
But and he was like, he had no idea about half the technical stuff I was talking about. I was like, what do you do again? And he's like, oh, I lead the IT team for the city. And I was just like,
Yeah.
but you don't even understand technology. And it's like, you don't need to understand technology to lead people. That was his direct response.
Well, if that got him the job,
Oh,
that's
no.
the kind of government we have.
I think he got the job because he's white, he's handsome, and he's charismatic. That's pretty much about the qualification that he needs.
Well, that's another discussion as well, because I think white men these days are probably one of the minorities in the workplace that aren't likely to get promotions.
Is that true?
Mm-hmm.
Well, where do I sign up? Because I've been looking for that since Whoopi killed Phillip. And since the devil was a boy and now the devil is a grown man, and I still can't get my promotion. So let me know, because
That's not right.
As far as I'm looking around and seeing, I'm
That's
still
not right.
seeing white people who are coming in to jobs that are into the same organization that I've been working at for years,
That's wrong.
that I am training and getting paid higher than me and getting and are
I don't blame you for being pissed. That's not right.
so I don't know in what reality that is, but that definitely not is in my reality or in my scope. But I'll take your word for it, Mr. Cheeseman.
Well,
I
there
will
are
take
some
your
there
word for
there are
it.
some jobs where I know where I'm applying or have applied. I know I don't have a snowball's chance in Hades.
Maybe that's an association work thing, or maybe that's a non-profit thing.
Could be.
I don't think that
Could be.
applies to the for-profit world, because the discussion still
You
remains
might be right there.
where people are saying, as much as they try to have diversity and EDI, there's still people coming, like executives, white executives, coming around saying, why do we need to have EDI when we should be hiring the best, and I have air quotes up, people, the best man for the job. And I'm just like, well, oftentimes people who are non-Caucasian, people who don't look like you, people who didn't go to the same schools as you, who maybe didn't get afforded the same opportunity as you, could do the same job or could even do it better, but just don't have the opportunity or the visibility because of hiring biases.
Biases, yeah. Well, that is a topic in itself as well.
So, that is but
Can
that
you
is for
remind me-
another podcast.
It is. Can you remind us what were we going to talk about today? Because I interrupted you.
We're going down my Reddit rabbit hole.
As is the rest of this discussion.
We're going down my Reddit rabbit hole, and so there were a few discussions that popped out to me, and I was like, I really want to bring them to the podcast.
Okay.
One of the top discussions, it got the most votes, upvotes on Reddit in the subreddit that I've subscribed to, was which is dating over 30. And the question was, any hobbies that may look unfavorable in a profile /intro that I shouldn't be mentioning? ? So the person goes on to say, I'm not judging on what hobbies someone should or shouldn't do, but I guess in a dating profile, the viewer may potentially judge it negatively. I'm a guy and I do go to Zumba classes for fitness, but my guy friends say that I shouldn't put it on my profile or mention it proactively. He says Zumba is predominantly for women. So clearly this person is straight. And they said, I would say statistically yes, in parentheses, and it doesn't look good in my dating profile. Is he right about that? How some hobbies where it may skew towards one gender may not look favorable in a profile? I know video games get a bad rep on profiles. I do understand that there are some people who like those hobbies, but I don't want to turn people off through my friend. Though, what? I don't want to turn people off. Oh, the struggle child. Why don't people just double check their writings? Turn people off, though, and my friend says putting Zumba there may have a negative effect. What are your thoughts?
Well, here's my thought. Put whatever the hell you want.
Yeah.
I mean, who cares what other people think? Some people are going to say, that's a great idea. I love Zumba. Others are going to have no opinion. Others are going to say, oh, that's feminist faggot. I'm going to stay away from him. Maybe they'll think that. Who knows what they'll think? If you're comfortable with who you are and you want to talk about it and you like it, there's no judgment of it. Put it on there, for crying out loud.
I must say, as someone who is a Zumba instructor, Zumba does predominantly have a female audience, and the very few men that are in Zumba are usually queer. Even though, ironically, the creator of Zumba himself, Beto, is a heterosexual man. So it's ironic, it's odd. I say, why would you not put yourself in a position to be authentic
And fit. Obviously, if you like Zumba,
and
you're fit.
fit.
You know,
Yeah,
That to
exactly.
me is like that's a plus in the gay world, right?
Like, why would you not put yourself in a position to show who you are, and that way, if somebody really likes you for you and wants to connect with you for you, wouldn't that be great?
You know, one that doesn't really impress me, you mentioned a minute ago, is the video games thing. I mean,
Let's talk about that.
Okay, you're sitting on your ass. You know, you probably got popcorn on one side, maybe a drink on the other.
Yeah.
And you've got a little bit of maybe a little bit of a belly or no belly, but you're sitting there doing a virtual video game. Who's benefiting from that? Where's the exercise? Where's the social contact?
Well, you know what? I will personally say, as someone who plays video games
And got his start in a career because of your...
and have a very successful career because
Yes, true.
of my knowledge through video games.
But you were young at the time.
But I still do play video games. And video games
You
today
have time to do that with all the other stuff you have going on?
I try to make time because that's how I unwind.
Okay.
That's how I
All right.
relax.
Okay.
And
So
you
I
know,
shouldn't be judgmental, is what you're saying.
But here's what I'm saying. Sometimes, just as how somebody can be a gym bunny and can still be a waste of space, somebody can still let's be frank. Somebody can still like hiking and still have, hobby. Oh, my hobby is socializing. My hobby is playing badminton, and they can still be an asshole.
The hobbies don't tell everything about somebody.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Your hobbies
yeah.
doesn't tell you how somebody's going to treat you in a relationship.
Yeah.
It doesn't tell you this person's worth, both financially or socially. So socioeconomically or just plain socially. It doesn't tell you how this person will present in person.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you read our profile and they say, oh,
That's a good point.
I like Zumba or I like video games, I don't think, obviously there are societal norms or factors that cause people to have closed-mindedness towards certain hobbies.
Yeah.
But
I like British comedies, for example. That's a hobby.
you see, if I saw that on your profile, I would say this person is dry and sarcastic. I don't want to waste my time.
Well, I don't actually, just so you know.
And look how much, if I had closed my mind off that, I'd be missing out on somebody as wonderful as you.
Oh, that is so nice of you to say that. And likewise. But I don't really pay much attention to the person's hobbies. First of all, I don't believe half of them. Because some people can list stuff and they might do, I like to travel. Well, I traveled 3 years ago, sort of thing.
Yeah.
I like theater. Well,
And if somebody's saying, I like to travel, doesn't mean that they travel often either.
Yeah, or very far. Hey, I go to Oshawa every weekend. Big thrill.
As of late, realize I have been traveling more often than the average human being, but I don't put that on my profile. I really don't. And in fact, to be honestly fair, I actually don't like traveling. I actually hate it.
Is it a hobby? Is traveling a hobby?
Exactly.
What is a hobby?
For me, I don't find traveling as a hobby. I look at traveling as a means of transport. I look at going on a plane as a means of transportation to get me from Toronto to the next city.
To the next man. I'm sorry, next city. Right.
Are you calling me an international hoe?
Not really.
How dare you? So yeah, I think, and we've had this discussion before where I say when people put on their profile reading as a hobby, to me that's a turn off. Like everybody should be reading.
Well,
reading is fundamental.
Excuse
in
me,
the words
sir.
of RuPaul.
You didn't know anything about this LCBO strike today, and you would have got that if you had been reading.
Well, there's a difference between reading and staying informed with current affairs. I happen to be staying informed with current affairs, but on a different part of the world, because
Yes, of course.
because
of the
UK
weather.
elections directly affect me and directly affect close friends of mine who are running for current office, and B, the hurricane in Jamaica directly affects me, my business as a landlord,
Both of those topics were on
and
television
family.
this week, so you didn't have to read about them.
So-
and so was the LCBO strike.
Well, and to be honest, I don't watch the news because I don't have cable.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah.
I'm a millennial. I get my news
Well-
through social media.
Well, anyway, we obviously watch different channels. In any event,
So that's just how I feel about, this particular discussion. And who knows, maybe later on I will summarize what we've discussed here and respond to the thread.
sure.
With that being said, we're going to take a quick break. And as usual, we will be right back. So there is another subreddit that I, stumbled upon in my rabbit hole, and that is while I was doom scrolling. It's called Ask Gay Bros Over 50. That's literally the name of the subreddit.
Okay.
And one of the questions there was, what are some of the things that you get away with when you were younger, but you cannot now that you are older? So the person writes, I'll go first. Sass. When I was younger, I could get away with being lippy. Now that I'm older, anything sassy just comes off as being a bitchy old queen. So,
That's good. I like that.
as somebody who's over 50, what is something that you usually do that you could get away with when you were younger, but you can no longer when you're older?
Well, I don't know if it's getting away with it, because I never consciously thought of trying to get away with something that I don't now. I mean, there are things that I don't do now that I did then that I wouldn't have thought twice about doing then, that today I'd say, what? I'm not going to do that.
Like what?
Well-
Sniffing poppers?
Well, no, that was never in my lexicon. I would say, you know what? Traveling. Traveling with 4 people in a car somewhere. I don't want to do that. If you think of the time I've got to do and the control I have to surrender, I want to get in my own vehicle, or I want to get on a plane and go somewhere. I'm more
But you take public transit all the time.
I'm more independent about things. I'm less inclined to involve a whole bunch of people in my plans for something. That's one thing. I mean, maybe it's because you're more independent as you get a little older and you get some of your, you get a little more money and you can do stuff. I mean, that's one thing I would think of.
So you mean like in the terms of like going on a group vacation with friends and booking an Airbnb with 4 people to split the cost?
Yeah, yeah.
As an example.
Yeah, I'm not.
I see.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not into that.
Oh, that's fair. I guess I don't know if I've ever been into that. I think I would do that with my partner, but which I have done in the past. But hell, I'm in my early 30s and I still don't know if I'm there yet, because there's just, and I know people who do that with friends, but for me, in my thought process, it's just so many different conflicting personalities.
You have less tolerance for.
I really do.
You want to control more of your environment.
Well, I do have OCD, and a big part of OCD is my compulsion for control.
I hadn't noticed that.
You don't say.
Mm-hmm. I think we both have a little bit of that in our mental makeup, although yours may be a little more robust than mine. However, that's
how much shade must I take in one episode from you, Norm?
This is a very good drink, by the way, just to change the subject.
Good recovery.
Yes.
I think, speaking of drink, actually,
Oh, there's one.
drinking and still be like going out on
Yes. That's a
a
good-
drinking binge
Oh.
and waking up the next day and feeling fresh. Bitch, I remember like 2 weeks after I hit my 30s, I literally went out. I got to the party at maybe 1. Shout out to my friend Kev. It was at his place in Scarborough. Drove all from downtown, got to the party, drank, left at 3, went home, and had work the following day. Something that, again, a month prior, I was able to get up to go to work at 9 a.m. and I was quite fine. And I realized,
Get away with it. That's a good that's an
like,
example of what you can't get away with when you're older.
bitch, I feel like a TTC bus hit me. I felt sick.
Yeah.
I was like, what is this feeling?
No, there's some dumb things you do when you're younger that you just don't do or can't do as you get older. Although your transition from younger to older in your case wasn't very many years, like a couple of years or a couple of weeks.
I felt it really quickly.
Yeah. Well, that's good because you don't want to do that too often, right?
You know what I was thinking about?
What?
Remember back in the 70s and the 80s where
I
men
do.
were wearing bell bottoms and
Yes, I do.
crop tops?
In the high school, they wore bell bottoms. And yes. What's your question?
Do you think you could get away with wearing bell bottoms or a crop top today?
If they were in style, why not? But they're not.
But they're not.
They're not. Unless you're going out for Halloween and you want to be the Moody Blues or whatever those groups were that we used to listen to.
Or just as a young person, I'd look at you and you'd be like, "Oh, are you supposed to be a hipster?"
But bell bottoms, I remember bugging my mother to get me a pair of bell bottoms. I mean, that was a big deal when I was in grade 11 and 12.
What a time!
Oh,
what an era!
That was before you were born, hon.
But you know what? I do notice that the Gen Alphas and the Gen Zs are bringing back the 90s fashion.
Yeah.
So my time,
Yeah.
like the kids are in those like the denim outfits and the baggy jeans.
And there's more afros now?
And the afro.
I've noticed a lot of those.
I literally was saying to my friend here who was visiting recently, I call it the broccoli head top. Like the kids, trust me,
Yeah.
once you see it, you will not unsee it. Their head tops just look like a broccoli.
And you know what? When you I got a few weeks ago, but I think it was a good long time ago. I saw a guy on the street, and he was a younger guy, and I commented on his hairdo like that. I said, "Hey, I really like your hair," and his face lit up, and he was really glad to have somebody notice this hairdo. It was like right out of the 1970s.
I'm telling you, the kids
Boston
are bringing
Celtics.
back the old-fashioned style. So don't be surprised so don't throw out or donate your bell bottoms to Goodwill just yet. Hold on to it.
I'm afraid they're long gone, but I'll keep that in mind if they come back in style.
And if you're a listener who's feeling like you need to get rid of stuff like how Norm has been decluttering recently and you have bell bottoms, feel free to drop them in my P.O. box.
Don't come my way, honey.
What else do you think is something that you just like, give me one more thing?
I'm trying to think.
For me, I was thinking about this as I was writing my producer notes, and I was thinking how when I was younger, I used to have this weird thing where I'd go to strangers and hug them. And I don't think I could get away with it now. Well, first of all, it's just cute when you're younger, but
How young?
like in your teens or early 20s.
I'd say that was strange at any age.
Really?
Yeah. Why would you do that?
Well, you know what? It's ironic because just a couple like just last week I was at Canadian Tire and this kid came up to me, couldn't be more than like 13, 14-year-old. And he came up to me and he just gave me a hug. And that's what it popped into my head. And I remember thinking and his mom looked at me and smiled. And I remember just thinking to myself, that was odd. That was odd, but also in the same breath, so wholesome.
Well, it was a daddy and son relationship in the making, wasn't it?
Could you imagine? Or just like eating whatever you want and not getting a single pound.
Yeah, that was great.
Though you kind of still don't look like you ever struggled with that because
I've been losing weight, actually.
you look great.
Thank you.
So maybe that may not be everyone's struggle, but
We all have our struggles. We all have our struggles. I'm just trying to think, I don't think there's a lot I would have done that I did then that I wouldn't do now because I was afraid of it. My tastes may have changed for stuff, but I'm pretty much the same kind of person I've been all my life.
Really?
Yeah. Have I changed a lot in the 11 years you've known me?
Well, but that's a blimp in the amount of years you've lived.
All right, let's not push it, okay? Just to remind me. I've never been called a blimp, folks. By the way, forgive me, I'm finishing the carrot cake, that delicious carrot cake.
Sorry.
We should pause our
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So anyhow, moving on.
How about you? I mean, are there things that you do now that you don't think you would do in 15 or 20 years?
Well, you know what? Yeah, I don't think in 15 or 20 years I will hook up with guys or go to orgies anymore. It's no secret. Anybody who knows me, anybody who dates me, I've been very honest and open and upfront that I am a voyeurist and that I love watching group sex and that
I'm amazed you even know about these events.
and that I am a cruiser. I'm not the type of person. We have spoken about this in like multiple episodes where I've spoken about my disdain for apps, specifically dating and hookup apps. I'm not really on them, and so my preferred method of going out, meeting guys, is going to the club, going to a bar, cruising a guy in a public toilet or just on the street. That's how I prefer meeting people, and I don't see myself doing that in not even 10 years from now. 10 years from now, my hope is that I'm in close monogamous loving relationship. Will that exist? Who is to say?
Mm-hmm.
I still have friends who are in their 40s and their 50s and they're still very much single as a dollar bill. So,
As an American dollar bill. We don't have dollar bills in Canada anymore. not single dollar bills. Anyway.
They're still single as a dollar bill. So as far as I'm concerned, it's something I don't see myself doing, but who knows what the future holds. Well, I also hope that I can definitely start sleeping better when I'm older, because right now I go to bed habitually at 3 a.m. in the morning, and I don't think
you do too much. So here's one thing that will change for you. You will reduce your world right now is, and this is a young person, is very big. It will become a little smaller. It'll become a little bit closer to home, a little bit closer to where the energy extends as you get older. So there'll be things you cut out because A, you don't feel like doing it, or you don't have the energy, or you're just not interested.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that you don't feel bad about it. You lose interest in doing stuff. Your body changes. Your interests change. You may not be able to see that now, but you're right. You may not be going out as much. And as I certainly stopped. I remember around 40, I thought, these bars are boring. I still think they're boring. I haven't met somebody in a bar in years.
Well, you know what? To be honest, I have stopped going to clubs and bars, not necessarily because I think that they're boring, but as I've said previously to you privately, that the service turns me off. Whether I'm not experiencing racism,
okay,
or the overcharging of everything.
And the booze here in Canadian bars.
Oh my God, don't get me
folks,
started.
If you're coming from the United States or elsewhere, do not order a cocktail in a Canadian bar.
Don't
Not in
even
Ontario.
get me.
You might as well bring a bottle of water in and drink that. Have a beer, have a glass.
If they'll even let you bring your own water
you won't.
in.
I'm exaggerating. You won't.
Let me tell you, it's the other day, for one of my girlfriends was insistent that she wanted to have her birthday party at Rebel. Right? We drive to Rebel parking was what? $30. Sorry, $35. That's just the park. That's just the park. If you're parking closer to the building, it's $45.
Good Lord.
So you have to park far for $35, closer for $45. When you get to the door, How much do you have to pay for entry? $50.
Where are they located again?
Rebel is just down the street. It's
Okay.
by the close to Cherry Beach. It's
Okay,
where
yeah,
Cabana
down there.
is.
Okay, so
It's $50 to get in.
it's $3 on TTC, just FYI.
And we were just like, it would have been cheaper to Uber.
yeah.
And not only is you have to pay for parking,
Well-
you have to pay for entry. When you get in, there are no seats. If you want a seat, you have to buy a bottle service. And bottle service, you're paying like $200, $300 for a bottle of gin that would otherwise cost you $35 at the LCBO. It is fucking ridiculous. I remember saying this was the last, and I indulged because it was her birthday party, but I was like,
That's a lot of money to
I'm not even
spend.
interested.
Yeah.
The music was trash. You can't even dance to the music that they were playing.
Yeah.
It was awful.
Not a nice experience.
It
No,
was
that's-
bloody awful.
So you will not do that anymore.
I personally, and I know a lot of other young people who feel the same way, where we're just like, yeah, the club scene is dying and it can die for all we
Well, it's
care.
particularly bad in Toronto. I have friends that go to New York. They love it there.
Yeah.
They love New York.
When I go like when I go to Berlin,
Yes.
I go clubbing. But Toronto, girls can kick rocks. But, you
I
know.
must say, as an older person, clubbing just doesn't really do it for me anymore. I guess maybe I should come out with you. You know what? We go to Europe.
Yes.
You know, when you go over to the other side of the pond, when you're going east, you can stay up really late for the first 2 or 3 nights.
Oh, that's
Because
usually
of
what
time
I
change.
do.
Yeah, so those are the nights to go clubbing. So I can come out clubbing with you the first night or 2. I'll be out till 2 or 3. I'll sleep until 11, of course. Miss breakfast, as I usually do in these damned hotels in Europe. But that's how I would get my stay out late and remind myself I'm in my 30s. And yes, I have closed bars in New York and Chicago in my younger days, but I won't go into that right now.
Oh, remind myself I'm in my 30s. That was a good line, Norm. So,
We've covered a lot of ground tonight.
I know. Another topic from Ask Gay Bros Over 50. No friends, maybe no boyfriend. So this person writes, I have been in a relationship with my boyfriend for 7 years. In that time, I have not sustained nor created any new friendships, and I'm sensing a potential breakup. I know it's my fault. I've always been an introvert and have a certain degree of social anxiety. Now I find myself with no friends, and it scares me to be alone. If you have been in a similar situation, any advice? What steps should I follow? Also, I don't want to go to therapy. I've been there. I know it helps, but right now I can't afford it, and I know it takes a considerable amount of time to see any results.
Well, I've been there in a sense because I was in a relationship for several years, and I found at the end of it, I didn't have a lot of close friends. I really didn't.
Is this when you were married you're talking about?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And today I'm a happier person because I have a circle of friends who are just great, who support me. I had that
And we
group
love
of
you.
friends, thank you, and vice versa. And had I had those friends 10 or 12 years ago, I wouldn't have made some dumb mistakes, and I would have been much better off in some ways. So, you know what? I can understand how you can become isolated in a relationship, but my friend, you got to reach out and get out of that relationship and not be afraid to step out and meet new people.
Yeah.
And they're there.
Yeah.
They're there. You will meet them, but you need to take that step, and you need to understand that you've probably been sheltered and maybe not felt quite as free to get out and make friends when you're in a relationship.
Yeah. I agree. I think sometimes when people get into relationships, their partner becomes their everything. And I'm not to say that is unhealthy, because it doesn't have to be.
Or they monopolize your time for other reasons.
Exactly.
You know, I need to house this. I need to do this. We need to shop for that. Blah, 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 blah.
And not to say it is unhealthy, because it can be healthy when your partner becomes your everything. There are situations in which it can be healthy, but that has to come from a place of love and mutual respect, and not from a place of being controlling. If you're in a relationship with someone who, as an example, feels threatened by you having friendships with someone of the same sex, or if you're in a heterosexual relationship, someone with friends of the opposite sex, or they start to pull you, realize that being in this relationship, they pull you away from your family,
That's
or
not
pull
good.
you away from your friends,
That's not
or they're like, oh, I don't like somebody you've been friends with for ages. They're like, oh, I don't like this person. I don't want you hanging out with this person anymore. Whether they say that directly or indirectly, for me, these are huge red flags.
And the question is, how do you get out of that situation? And that can be messy.
And that can become very, very messy.
Yeah.
When you're in a relationship and you're with someone, and you find that, especially if you're an introvert, and you find that that person is becoming your everything, take a pause and ask yourself, what do you have for yourself?
Mm-hmm.
How much of your time in your relationship are you investing into yourself?
And are they allowing you time to invest
in yourself?
Do they recognize the importance that you've got to have your own life as well?
Exactly.
And if they don't, then I think it's time to check out.
So this person says that there is an imminent breakup coming, and they're scared of being alone. The truth is, you will be alone
for time.
For a time.
Yeah.
But
and even when you have friends, you still feel alone.
Sometimes you can still feel alone.
Yeah.
Right? But you, as an individual, have to make the effort to put yourself out there and remedy that situation for yourself.
Yeah.
You have to prioritize how much energy are you going to give to my individual hobby, and what do I have for myself outside of this relationship. Let us just even say it wasn't a breakup. Let's say your partner died.
Yeah. Yes, that's happened. I know a friend that happened, and he suddenly, what am I going to do?
Right?
Yeah. Everything I did was with my partner.
We traveled together. We ate together. We slept together. We went shopping together.
Yeah, that's
and
difficult.
all of a sudden you become a shut-in.
You have to form a new set of regular habits and socialization and places to go, and it's you've got to build yourself up again.
What's your identity outside of this person? And regardless of being in a relationship with someone where you and that person becomes a unit, right? The unit or the unity is only a shared vision between you and that partner. But it doesn't mean that you as an individual should cease to exist.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree with you.
And so for your friend, as an example, who their partner died, and that's why I say it doesn't necessarily have to be in a situation where it's a breakup. It could just be a situation where your partner has passed on. How do you as an individual, or you have divorced?
There's another topic, what constitutes healthy socialization in a mature marriage relationship, older and younger.
I should write that in my notes. That is a very good topic, but that's for another podcast.
I know, and you know what, folks? We come up with 4 or 5 great ideas for the next podcast, and by the time we're finished, we forgot what they are. So
that's what
we should start saying these things online while we're talking. So if we do forget, we've got a record of it, right?
But here we go. Now we have executive notes that is heard by the people, so they can oftentimes remind us as to, hey, remember you had this topic.
And we want to hear your suggestions for other topics too. We are absolutely open.
Oh, some of the topics that I've produced have actually come directly from people in the Discord.
Oh, I see.
Which
the Discord that you don't share with me, I might add.
Well, who is stopping you from downloading Discord or Reddit?
I didn't know you had to. That's something.
It's an app too.
Okay. All right. Sorry.
You Luddite.
Well, see, this is the intergenerational issue. Sorry, I'm having trouble with my words here. This gin is very strong gin. You put it in this thing. It's also finished.
So the last thing I want to say on this is that death can come in multiple different ways, shapes, and forms. A breakup is a form of death.
Oh yeah, it's the same.
A
stress level.
divorce is a form of death. You
I've been there.
grieve
Oh, it's horrible.
the loss of that partner.
It's
And it
horrible.
doesn't have to take days. It doesn't have to take weeks. It can sometimes take years.
Yeah.
You can sometimes even still be in a new relationship and love that person and still be grieving the loss of another. And you know what? That is okay.
Thank you.
Figure out your identity outside of this person and move forward.
Very wise words.
Thank you.
And I have a feeling they might be aimed at somebody in particular.
And you are not wrong. So, you know what? I think I'm going to end it there for today. I had a few others, but I think I'm going to end it there.
We can save some more of these questions for another time. I mean,
I like that. I think I'm going to do every now and again. I'm going to discuss my rabbit holes, my doom scrolling rabbit holes that I go through, because Reddit is such an interesting place. You're going to go on Reddit and you're going to be like, huh?
well, I've
this
got
is
the app to
fascinating.
download. I was looking at my phone as we were talking. And
I'll help you do that off
Okay,
air.
okay.
I'll help you do that. I have one last question for you before we go. What are you reading right now, and how is that book going?
I have just finished a book by David Ignatius, who is a Washington Post columnist and a former, I'd call him intelligence expert, and it was something to do with very, very interesting intelligence spy stuff. The other thing I was reading was the story of a guy a casino owner in Las Vegas who had a very interesting life and who had a very interesting end, which it was good reading. I like that kind of stuff.
What's the name of the book?
I can't remember.
Oh, okay.
Because it was from the Las Vegas summary stories, and then it disappeared on my iPad. I don't know what happened to it. I didn't get through.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Norm may be a Luddite, but he still has some technological advancements. He only reads books on his iPad.
Well, mostly now. I find that's good because when I come across a big word, I can press a button and get it quickly, a definition of it. I like that. And every now and then you do come across a big word on the internet.
I mean, it's learning at your fingertips.
Oh, very well put.
Thank you. With that being said, thank you for listening to today's episode. If you made it all the way to the end, follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Daddy and Son. If you have any questions for the show, send them over to daddyandsonpodcast@gmail.com. That's DADDYANDSON podcast@gmail.com. Leave comments on the YouTube channel as well, and maybe we'll respond. But until next time, sons, be good to your daddies.
And daddies, be kind to your sons.
Absolutely. Bye for now.